Hey, Andy.
Hello.
How are you?
Now I connected the sound. Did I come in the right way?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
You're able to be a co-host, so it's all good. Well, we're about to see what happens here.
Yes. So, yeah, I think I'm co-presenter already, right? I can see security.
Yep, you are.
And are you going to be recording it here as well? Just, on YouTube is streaming anyway, right?
Yeah, YouTube is streaming it right now, so I think I'm not going to bother with recording.
Yeah, it's good.
Let's see.
You have a countdown and everything. You're getting fancy.
Oh, it's all good with the that software. It works out pretty well. Oh, good. You had a busy day, Andy, or?
It's like, let's say 70-80% busy. It's not bad.
Yeah. Good deal. Had a reasonably quiet Friday for me, which is unusual. Normally I'm like kind of going crazy. I try to block off my Friday afternoons completely just so that I try not to schedule things for late.
Yeah.
Sometimes that works, and this has been a day that my whole Friday has worked pretty close. I've had a few meetings, but not too bad. It's been kind of actually refreshing.
That's good. That's always good.
Yeah.
If I can.
Welcome, everybody. It's good to have you here. Getting a few people chatting online here as well, which is awesome on YouTube.
I like the doorbell too. Ding, ding, ding. Like a store.
Yeah, it's nice. We know who's coming and going. It's great. Welcome, everybody. This is our very first Flow Office Hours. Andy and I have kind of talked about doing this for a few months, and finally it's here. It's kind of crazy, but we're hoping to be able to do this every month and try to help as many people as we can as they're learning Flow, help them over whatever hurdles they might have, and make it kind of a community fun event to just learn. And so thank you for joining. Andy, I'll let you introduce yourself if you want.
Okay, I'm Engin Utkan. I've been teaching flows for a few years now, more than 10 years on the Salesforce platform. I started building my certifications in 2018. I have 12 now, and I have a website called Salesforce Break and a YouTube channel, Udemy class, newsletter, a couple of things around it. And I enjoy also getting together with friends like Terry, who enjoy doing the same, so that we can do live sessions, chats, and then try to help people out like this. So it's my pleasure to be with you today, and thank you, Terry, for organizing it.
All good. I think it was your idea, so it's all good. It's awesome.
I can't remember anymore.
Yeah. So those who don't know me, I'm Terry with Terry's Tidbits, is where I do a lot of blogging and YouTube work as well. Done quite a bit with helping people get their certifications. So there's study group material out there on my YouTube channel, and then trying to help as many people as we can just learn flow. And so I'm happy to join Andy. Andy's going to be the smart one that's going to answer all your questions. I'm certain of that. It'll be fun to work with all of you. I do have a slide here just with some quick instructions for you. If you, those of you who are on the Zoom meeting, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. That's the whole reason we're here, is to help those of you that are on our Zoom link. Just simply raise your hand. There's at the bottom of the screen, you should see something there that allows you to raise your hand. If you have a question, we will call on you. We do ask that you use a sandbox environment just because of the confidentiality. We don't want to have any of your customer data showing up on screen because this is being recorded. It's being live streamed out to YouTube as well. So we want to make sure you're safe and your customers are safe, and so are we. Make sure that as you have your questions to kind of be prepared to ask them in a clear fashion, kind of give us your quick use case. We do want you to try to keep it as concise as you can. We probably can't solve an entire issue with flow, but hopefully we can kind of help with a few key pieces of it that maybe you're struggling with. That just will help us hopefully be able to answer more questions in the hour that we have together. Again, this is being recorded, so please keep that in mind. This is also a community effort. So Andy and I are here to facilitate. We will do our best to try to answer questions, but I'm convinced that there's probably other flow experts that's going to join. And if you're one of those people, please feel free to unmute if you've got thoughts or suggestions that may help. You are more than welcome to contribute as well. So thanks again for joining. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to hope that we will have a few people raise their hands with some questions. And so if you've got a question, please go ahead and indicate that. We will call on you as you have them.
So as you put in your questions into chat one more time, this is live and recorded, so do not share sensitive information, and we'll try to help you as to our best ability. And if that's an indication for you, my YouTube channel is called Salesforce Break. I break things all the time. I break and fix them. So if you break things as a result of our recommendation, we can't be held responsible. Sorry.
So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and raise your hand. Yes, we've got one here, it looks like.
Yeah, the bad thing out of this is if nobody asks a question, we can't really create content. So, right, we have a hand.
I see the hand. Oh, there it is, Emily. Yes. All right. Go ahead and unmute Emily and
hi, how are you?
What we can do to help. Hi. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't have like a specific example, but I'm just curious to kind of talk about, I'm at the point in flow where I've, built a pretty complex flow that handles a lot of different scenarios. And I'm trying to now make sure that I'm living up to like best practices. And something that I have seen in sort of like, articles about best practices is to make it so that there aren't too many update elements within one sort of like pathway. And so my reading is that, you can use assign elements to kind of like assign as you're going along. And then at the end, sort of do all of the updates. I'm curious if you could like talk about that a little bit more to me, because I'm not quite sure like how to approach thinking about that.
Andy, you want to take a stab at that one?
Yeah, okay. So there are many considerations about this one. Now, when you're first learning flows, it's like any other topic. You actually wonder what the best practices are, and you are going to feel more comfortable if you have very black and white rules saying, okay, do this, don't do that, do 3 updates and stop at 3, whatever. That's going to be very clear. We need to just keep in mind that Flow Builder is a very capable tool. It's kind of like a programming, like coding, but in a little bit more limited fashion, but still very capable. So there is definitely not one way of solving problems. So, and I try to stay away from creating too many harsh rules, because people sometimes take that the wrong way, and they feel bad if you do it the other way around. It doesn't have to be that way. So having said all that, now when you are doing your operations inside Flow, there are 2 operations that are very important in terms of performance impact. One is your DML operations. DML operations are the operations that create or update records in the Salesforce database. And the other one is your get or SQL operations, which is the information retrieval, let's say, query. And you need to always keep in mind that the number of those operations that you can do within one single flow in a sequence is going to be limited. But this limit is in one transaction. If it's a synchronized transaction, if it's not async, now let's not get into that one. For get or SQL is going to be 100, and for DML is going to be 150. So our flows are a single transaction. If it's a record triggered flow, it's going to perform everything that's associated, like with Apex triggers, process builders, workflow rules, everything in one single transaction. So the total of all that cannot go above 100 or 150 respectively. So if you're doing only a couple of gets and updates, you shouldn't really worry about that too much. You should worry about it a little bit more if you are in a record triggered realm, because if you are doing a record triggered flow and you are working in an org where you have 1,000 users creating records 1,000 times a day or something like that, then you're talking big numbers. So that could have a big effect on performance overall. But in general, as you're getting started with Flow, this is not really a topic that you should be overly concerned about. You should start thinking about it, especially when you're dealing with collections, multiple records in flow and loops. So that'll be more of a consideration then.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. If you're in a loop, no pink items in loops.
Yeah, I have separated that. I do have assign elements within my loop.
yeah, and I wouldn't want to see you do an update to the same record multiple times inside your flow. I would, if you're finding that you're needing to do that, I would definitely leverage assignments and then do a single update call at the end to hit that. If again, that's if it's going to a single record or something.
One more comment, which Terry reminded me. Now, I also see sometimes people get concerned about the total of numbers of gets or updates or creates inside the flow, regardless of the path that the flow goes through. That's not that important. So what's important is in one single run on the path that your flow is taking, how many of those do you have? So as a total, you can have 20, but you could be running only 2 at a time on each of the paths. So that's what you need to worry about.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
Great. Patricia, you have a question there as well. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay, so I am struggling with this requirement that I have with a client to create a flow that if there is a name in the account record in a certain field, then I should go to the contact record of that person and make a checkbox. I mean, make a check mark. Okay, so I can show that. I mean, I have it open. It's in a sandbox. There's no.
Yeah, share it. Share it, Trish.
Yep, go ahead and share your screen. It'll probably ask for permission. We can grant that.
Okay.
Down at the bottom of the screen's a green button there. You should be able to click and
Yeah.
there you go.
Okay.
All right.
All righty. So you can see it.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, so here's the account record, and there's the contacts, and all of these contacts here. If there is a name in there, I need to go to that contacts record and check the checkbox. So I'll show you the checkboxes. I mean, you probably don't need to see them, but we can go zipping over there.
So it looks like that's a link to that. That's a lookup field to the contact where
Yes.
you're identifying who your primary is.
Yep, it is.
Okay.
And so now we get, and let's see. Oh yeah, this is down at the bottom. Here we go.
Yeah. So
So
it just updates the appropriate. Okay.
it updates those. And so the thing is, they change these. So if there's nothing in it, then
Oh,
there
true.
should be nothing in the checkbox. If there's something in it, then it should be something in the checkbox. And
So
today I just want the client to make sure that we're not doing like, oh, we're going to change somebody so that all in the same, that's another whole layer of complexity that I don't know what to do with. But I don't even know how to do this part. Now, Andy told me when we had a discussion about this that I needed to do a decision, but I kind of don't understand. I'm like totally newbie on this business. I've
have
worked my
you
way-
started your flow? Have you started to build a flow yet?
Well, there is a flow that started, but it's not exact. This is it. It's not what I need, I don't think. I mean, I don't, because I was just trying to do it with the primary contact, just to see if I could like get that part to work, but that's as far as I've gotten.
You know what I think I would do with this particular requirement? I don't know that I would do it in a flow. I think you could pull this off with a formula field.
Really?
Yeah, on your contact object, if you did and I'm going to talk this out. So if anybody catches me, thinks this doesn't work, let me know. So this is live thoughts.
I've actually
So
tried
if you created a formula field on the contact object, you could look up to the account to that primary contact field. And if that primary contact field on the account is this equal there, the ID in that field equals your contact ID, you could just simply have that return true in your formula field, and you wouldn't have to do it as any type of a flow. And then it maintains itself as well. If it gets unchecked, or if their primary contact changes, it's going to uncheck the one that was there before and check the new one.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this, because I'm happy to go try this, and I'm happy for this not to be a flow if it makes sense. I'm going to start on the. Go ahead.
I was going to say, go to your object manager and let's just do it real quick, and it might be just as easy.
I'm so thrilled. Just a sec. Okay, here we go.
So just go to setup.
Yeah, I know. Set up. I'm not a newbie to Salesforce. I'm just a newbie to Flows.
Yep.
Okay, object manager. And so I'm going to start on the contact page.
Contact object is where that formula field will be.
Okay, so essentially the fields then, so let's just look up the contact primary.
Yeah, this is going to be a new field that we're going to create.
Oh, okay, but so this would, but it's going to, okay, wait a minute, hold on. So I'm gonna need to create a new field, but then have have that
Here.
new field check this box? Is that how it's-
No, I would get rid of, I wouldn't even have your existing field. I would just do a new one.
Okay, so,
S-
all right, so new,
Yep, new formula.
getting there, slow. I don't know, this is a brand new computer. I don't have any idea why it is this slow. Okay, formula, yes.
Next, and go ahead and call it, like, we'll just do it on the primary contact. So go ahead and give it a name.
So this will be,
Yeah.
mhm.
And this will be a type checkbox.
Oh, yeah, okay, right, all righty.
And next, I think that API name might, yeah, you'll have to add something new to that field name there. Okay, and then next.
Okay,
Sorry, all the Flow folks, this isn't Flow, but it should be easy to solve this. Go to
It's
the
very
advanced
important, though.
formula.
Yes, not everything is solved with Flow.
Yeah, exactly. Do the insert field.
mm-hmm,
And from the contact, so on the right-hand side, scroll down to account
uh-huh,
and click on click on that, go to primary contact,
okay.
that
it's-
lookup field that you had.
Yeah, hold on. Primary, it's way the hell down here.
It's quite a number of fields.
Yep, you want that, you want the one right below where you're at, the one with the capital PR.
Yeah, that's it.
Without, not the one with the arrow, the one right above where you're at.
Oh, okay, there
That
we
one,
go.
yep, that's going to give you the ID of the primary
Insert.
contact. Insert,
Insert.
and then equals,
Equals,
insert field,
insert field.
contact, and then scroll down to the ID and put that in, and I think you will have a solution.
ID.
So you need the ID field, back up a little bit there.
It's.
And it might be called contact ID in here. I forget how they label it.
I'm pretty sure it's called.
Yep, contact. There it is, right at the top.
Contact ID, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
No, not that one.
Oh,
sorry,
we missed it.
Yeah, you
Sorry.
gotta click on insert first.
Yeah. So insert field.
wait a minute, I'm trying to figure out what, oh, I see, insert field. All right, there we go.
Yep.
Now,
Scroll down to contact ID.
okay. Contact ID, okay,
Yep. Click insert.
Yeah, insert.
insert.
And click next. That should solve your issue for you.
Wait a minute, so is that gonna make it a checkbox?
Yes, it will.
Oh
Yes.
my God. This is so, I can't believe it. This is just, why don't I know this? I mean, this is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. That and I think you had some other ones there as well. You could follow that same format for those.
Oh, yeah, of course, of
Yep.
course. So now if they change the name of the person,
It
it's gonna
automatically-
look it up and put that, oh my goodness.
Yep. Yeah. Flow not required.
I'm just blown away. And, you know,
Oh, very good.
I knew that checkboxes were special, but I mean, this is, okay, my
Oh, good.
ultimate
Trish.
gratitude.
Trish, thank you for joining. Can we use that little clip as our advertisement?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely. It's amazing. There you go.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you. You can go ahead and finish that out. Stop sharing your screen. And if anyone else has some questions. Jackie, do you see a problem using a flow that clones with related?
Jackie, can you join to speak to us?
Yeah, you able to
Yes, sorry.
explain your situation? Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're cloning with related, do you see an issue if you're basically getting 10 different, you're checking 10 different objects to get the records, not within the same branch, right? But, and then you're updating it with an assignment, and then you're creating the records, and then you're going to get another object to do the same thing, but you're just doing that 10 different times. Do you think that's too much for a flow to handle?
So let me see if I understand the question. Is the situation you're just taking a set of records and cloning them?
Yep, you're cloning with the related records.
Okay, got it. Andy, any thoughts on?
Is that a what type of flow is it? Is it record triggered or screen, or what is it?
Screen.
Screen flow.
Okay.
So when you are using a screen flow, I wouldn't be that much concerned about overall performance, because you are going to be running this on demand, and the total of get you can execute in one interview is going to be 100. So and for each get, you can get up to 50,000 records. So I mean, I don't really see a problem with that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in the process of building it out, but I just wanted to make sure before I got too far into it, if there would be any issues.
So unless you have custom objects in excess of 100 associated with this object, then you're good, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer, you have a question there as well?
I do. We had some code in our system that would look at records that were older than 5 years and had no changes or additions, and would set them up to be purged. The process was pretty cumbersome. We had to shut down over a weekend and run different classes in Apex, and I don't know all these words. So now that Flow offers delete record and scheduled flows, can I once a week or once a day set up a flow that looks for all those old records and finds all their related records and attachments and child records and deletes them through Flow? Is that a good use case?
Yeah, I've done that as well when
Okay.
to archive out records that are no longer of value.
Okay, is there a problem with the fact that it may be up to 19 different objects that are being touched?
Are they all in kind of a master detail relationship, or are they unrelated?
No, they're they would be related.
Just through a lookup, though.
Yeah, through lookup at the yeah. Some master detail, most lookup.
So if you delete the parent on your master detail, then your children will be deleted along with it. So that makes those easy.
Yeah.
You only have to delete that parent. For the other ones, are you able to identify those independently to determine if they need to be archived out?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Then
yes.
Andy, I'd be curious of your take, but I would probably set those all up as individual flows,
Yes.
scheduled flows.
Okay. Yes, I would recommend the same way. So let me just give you a little bit of a background about how scheduled flows work, scheduled triggered ones. So the scheduled triggered ones kind of are similar to the record triggered ones in the sense that you have a start element, and in your start element and the way you set it up, you define a start condition, entry condition. And all the records that actually fit the entry condition are going to be processed. So since you want to do that in several different objects, you want to actually set one up for each object.
Okay.
And then say like, okay, well, if you wanted to delete an account, you'd say, okay, I want to run this on account, and the entry condition is going to be all these different criteria that you come up with. Now, the one interesting thing about it is I don't think you can use created date or modified date with scheduled flow entry condition, but you can set up an entry condition and then in your decision afterwards check for it. So you can, you can only act on some of them.
Okay, yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, the thing that you want to be very careful, I'm a little bit concerned about deleting on scheduled flows, because scheduled flows, once they are on their way, they are kind of like a 100-ton truck or something, you can't really stop it. So what I would do is I would just set these up and then obviously test it in the sandbox. But, when testing it as well, without deleting, just update the description field or something like that.
Right. We're going to put a checkbox on there to
see
test
which
out.
ones it tags and make sure make sure that it's not processing things incorrectly. Now, the one thing about schedule triggered flows is they are quite prone to locking errors. So if you are processing two different child records at the same time, you are going to most probably have locking errors. So you want to schedule these like a little bit apart. So you want to run your accounts 1 hour and then, you know, the other one on the next hour or something like that.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay. So a master detail, if you delete that master record, it will take the child with it.
Yes.
And if that child had, again, this is not a flow question. If that child had related records via lookup, they would just become orphaned, right? Those.
If they're not
Grandchildren.
if they're not also in a master detail.
Right, they would just
relationship.
become orphaned.
Yeah, so you'd want to make sure that you are able to delete those or identify those without that lookup field there. Now, I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since I've looked at this, but you might check that lookup field as well, because you may have some restrictions on whether or not you can delete or the value
Yep, you have to get
connected
into
to it.
the account.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Man. I've applied for Salesforce Pro Bono help with this, with thinking through this flow and crafting it. Do you think it's a good, do you guys know about Pro Bono at Salesforce, and is that a good use case?
Yeah, I think it's a good use case because I've never used them, but I know that the budget is quite limited, and at the same time it's quite useful when you have a very specific use case, and this is a very specific use case. So I would imagine this would be a good one.
Terrific. I'm meeting with them next week. So
and
thank you guys.
If they cannot help you, we'll help you. So
right.
Thank you. And
who are you gonna call?
Thank you.
I'm going to butcher this name, but is it Hershada? You had a question early on in the chat when designing or
It was
managing.
about governance limits, and then I checked with Hershada, and she said we got it covered.
Okay.
What else can we talk about related to governance limits? We can still talk about a couple of things. So your flows can only execute up to 2,000 elements. So when you get past 2,000 elements in one flow interview, you are going to get too many iterations or something like that. So you're looping inside your loop or something like that. That's how you're going to hit that. So you're not going to be able to execute that transaction. It's going to roll back. And another limitation is there are a certain number of flows that you can run within 24 hours or something like that, and that's dependent on your licensing. It's not a limit that you usually come up against. Even I even forget about it a lot of times. I don't even remember that there is something. I think it's this page, right?
Is it this?
I think it's this one. Look,
how
many
50. Is it 50?
You can have and things like that. I think it's up there. Per month limitation, for example, it says screen flows you can only have per month. I mean, the limits are super high. So there are some limits. Sometimes this question comes and I even forget about it, but you know, it's not really a huge consideration.
All right, very good. Other questions? Feel free to raise your hand if you have questions. Do we have any other flow experts? You consider yourself to be kind of a flow expert and you're joining just to be able to share your thoughts?
Sarah is here. I think Sarah is a flow expert.
You know Sarah. All right.
I was going to vote for Sarah. She's helped me with flows before.
Awesome. Good to have you here, Sarah.
Yes, we have a hand raise here.
Oh, Emily.
Great. Is
ahead.
it okay if I ask another question?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my question is around, we have, whoops, I'm sorry. I saw you. Okay. My question is around, we have an Apex class that was developed from like a freelance developer that does an API call to an external system and then generates records or updates records in Salesforce. And in order to run it, I have to open up the developer console and execute the class. And so I was experimenting with using a scheduled flow, and I was able to insert the Apex class, but it doesn't appear to be running the way I expect it should. Should I share my screen so you can take a look?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, let me make sure my windows are set up right. Okay. So it's not active right now, but so I have essentially on this schedule, call this Apex action, which I had to insert the invocable method in the class in order to make it appear here.
Okay, so have you done the work that's necessary to convert your Apex into an invocable action? Because there are
Yeah.
particulars about that.
I think so.
Can you double click on that for a second?
Mhm.
So it doesn't actually accept any input. It doesn't need any input.
Nope.
So
Okay,
all you need to do is just run it then, right?
Yep,
You're just
exactly.
trying to execute it.
just telling
Yeah,
it.
and then it calls out to the API from the external system and then brings it back and then creates or updates the records.
And so right now you would run that in the execute anonymous console in your.
Yeah, I would go to like the developer console and I'll show you. I go
And just
up in
execute it
here.
there.
Yeah, and it's the last thing that shows up. And so I just hit execute here. And there were when they were, a lot of this language I don't know, but there were lots of considerations as to try and make it so that this happened automatically from within the class itself. But there were reasons that it couldn't happen, I think, due to I don't know the language, something about batches and
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah, and we're not seeing your dev console, but what are you running into from the flow perspective? Is it not executing it?
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to be executing it. When I check to see if the records were updated or created, they weren't.
Yeah, have you ever built an invocable, Terry?
Yes. Yeah, and what I'm questioning is if we are able to do a call out from an invocable flow.
Yeah,
If anybody knows the answer to that, I'm going to do a quick search and see if I can't identify an answer for
there
you.
are particulars about how you build an invocable Apex. I have not done it personally, but my general recommendation is from now on, when you have developers build code for you, it's always a good idea to also ask them to create an invocable, because it's not a lot of work. You should have it part of your scope. In fact, if your code is doing multiple things at once and you want to be able to do those partially, call out one part of it, just have them build a couple of invocables or pass a parameter to invoke that certain part.
Okay.
This is interesting. Emily, let me share my screen. I'll take it back from you. It might just simply be. So I'm assuming at the top of your flow, you've got, or top of the Apex, you've got the invocable method piece. That's allowing you to see it within flow. This call out equals true flag any performs callouts. You can now add a call attribute which manage transaction runtime. Runtime flow determines. You might just simply try adding that and see if that makes a difference. I have not done that particular type of thing either in an invocable flow, but that flag might be all that's missing.
Okay. Okay, great. I'll check that out.
But what you referred to, I think, Emily, before is Salesforce batches, flow interviews. So they run it like they run to like 100 or 200 batches or something together. So the Apex has to be structured to be bulkified to be able to do that. Usually it becomes a problem when input is passing. You're passing input from flow to Apex, which you're not. So I'm not exactly sure what's causing a problem here.
So
Okay.
I mean, you've been running this Apex though for quite a while. It sounds like you just have to do it manually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just do that every week.
And you're trying to just automate it. I mean, if you have access to a developer, if this doesn't work for you, it wouldn't be difficult to set up a scheduled job that runs the Apex class for you. That's also not that much from a lines of code perspective. A developer could pull that off in a matter of probably, well, he'd have to do test classes, but the code itself probably in less than 10 minutes. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward few lines of code to schedule, to set up a scheduled job for that. But it might be as simple as just adding that call out. I threw in your chat window a link to that article. So it might be able to help you there, Emily.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, good question. I'd be curious if that solves it for you. Follow back up with this. You've kind of caught my interest on that one to see if that would, if that's all it is.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Jennifer, how can we help you?
Hi again.
Yeah.
I didn't see any other hands, so I thought I'd ask this other question.
Yeah. No,
if
good.
it's okay to share my sandbox. So don't get scared by this flow. I'm not asking you to fix it. So I know it's not built correctly because I have pink inside the loop, and that's bad. It's also not built correctly because if I have too many files to move around, it errors. What I'm doing is I have an object called VCR, and there are a whole bunch of files on the VCR. So people send us their water bills, their mortgage, their rent bills, their late notices, and we add them to that VCR object.
Okay.
Now we're going to move those files to a different object, a different record. So what we're doing is looking for the content document links and gathering them all in the loop. And we're finding the ones where the title includes bill. We're finding the ones where the title includes late notice. My naming convention is fine. I'm not having a problem with that, but I shouldn't be getting them here. If they are bills, if they are late notices, then we want to move them. We want to also link to a second record. Does that make sense?
Yeah, can you show me the decision inside the decision, one of them?
Yep, it's just does the
Is null false. All right, I have great news for you.
okay.
With the new release, you won't have to loop through this stuff, I don't think.
Okay.
We have something called a collection filter. So
collections, okay.
what you are going to do is you are going to get all these the CDLs, right?
Yeah.
And then what the collection filter can do for you is you can take that decision criteria and then you can even build it with ORs and things like that. You can even do a formula, complex formula, and say, you know what, take that collection of records. I only want a portion of that. And then you'll downsize it, you'll filter it, and then you'll take that, and then you can create new records with that, modify some values and create new records with that. Well, if you modify values on each of the records, then you'll have to loop. But if you're gonna take it and then do something with it, you may not
Create
have.
new.
Yeah, probably you will have to loop through them to set the new values and then do your update in one shot. Just sending the collection to your database to be committed, and then you'll do your record creation there.
So we're getting all of the CDLs. Looking through in my decision element, we're going to say, does it have a bill in it? Does it have a late notice in it? If
You
it
wouldn't-
does,
You wouldn't even need the decision. You'd just do the is it collection sort? Is that the name of that?
Collection filter.
Filter. Collection filter will do it for you.
okay,
Yeah, I'll paste
Okay.
a blog post link for you here.
okay. So then if it does meet the condition of the collection filter, I want to create a new CDL and attach it to the account record. So do
Yeah,
I
yeah.
assign and then create all those new CDLs, or do they create all? Do I have to use assign and loop?
You're still going to have to loop through
Yeah.
the filtered collection
That's
in
right.
order
Okay.
to set the new records that you're going to connect it to.
That's right. So you're gonna loop through it to change the lookup.
Owner, yeah.
Change where it's linked to. Or create a new link, actually.
Mhm.
We want it linked in both places, so. Okay,
Yeah, and
That's
Andy's got a
interesting.
link there for you.
So what you do in your loop element is you loop through your collection. Now you don't really have any unnecessary things to loop through. At least you filtered and you have a smaller number. And then as you're looping through, you are going to look at each of them, and
Okay.
then you'll have to create a record variable and that assign to that record variable the record values, the previous record values, and then change the lookup value in that record variable, and then add that to a brand new collection. Every record variable will have to be added to a brand new collection record variable. And then at the end of that, once you get out of your loop, you're just going to send that to a create element, and it's just going to create the whole batch in one shot.
this is very interesting. Thank you for that article. I think this is going to be helping me a lot.
Good.
Okay, and that'll also take, like, if I have 47 bills, I never had that many, but if I did, the flow would error. This should help that, right?
You could have 10,000, the flow
Okay.
would work,
Okay,
right?
All right.
Am I wrong, Terry?
I think that sounds
I
right.
think
Yeah.
that sounds right, because you are
From your
actually
lips.
doing one DML only for all the
Yeah.
records.
okay. That sounds really good.
Very
All
good.
right, thank you.
Garrett, you have a question for us.
Yes. Hi, Terry. Hi, Andy. My name's Garrett, and I came across you guys in LinkedIn content and just really love all of the content you guys have. I've done flow to do a lot each time. It's like not bespoke. Like I like to repeat patterns, but every use case is like somewhat different. The one that's before me, which I just haven't like got into build mode, and so don't know what it's going to be. Pretty simple, I think, but the use case is email to case. So in Service Cloud, email to case comes in, and it's the classic email to case handles relating that case that's born and relating it to a contact that exists by email address. Great. But when the contact doesn't exist, the client wants to create a contact. And so that's super basic flow in my mind. But as far as like the fields that I would look at, I'll share my screen real quick.
So is this a like a web to case where you're getting contact information and you're needing, if the contact doesn't exist, you need to create one.
Yeah, except this is email to case, and that's kind
Email
of
to
like
case.
my just question before I've like dug in, and I thought I could take advantage if you
Yep.
guys have done this before. Share my screen, sorry. So on the case record, the originating email record that, you know, it has the from name, I guess, by virtue of one's email address has that piece of data in it. And I'm wondering if that's what I would use like to, or is it more basic that on the case that's created, there's some field that would have this as well. But first of all, if I wanted to be really like clean about it and separate a first name and last name, then I would use a formula within the flow to like parse out, you know, if there's a space between the string and the from name on the email record, then store as a variable the first part, then last part. So here's what I'm thinking is,
So you're not doing email matching, email address matching?
we are doing email address matching for the inbound case. It's going to just associate to a contact by matching email.
So if this is a new one, right? You want to create the new one. That was the question.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. And we're testing Education Cloud, which we have in the Education Cloud, some, you know, functionality is that there's this default account model and we're choosing the householding model. What that means is if you create a standalone contact, the system automatically creates a household account from that contact's last name.
Yeah.
So I want like that seems to me like in this flow, before that gets to the point in the level of operations where the contact actually gets created. So this to me is like a before. I want to household that person if there's a matching household as well. So those are the things I'm going to work out.
Okay. So let me take a stab at this. Now, you are going to auto create a case, right? So if the case's email matches, that's going to be associated with an existing contact. So what you should be able to do is you should be able to create a record triggered flow on the case and then check whether there is already a contact association, right? So if there is no contact association, then you can, like you said, you can parse out the first and last name and you can create a first, last name and email contact. That's probably sufficient to create a contact, right?
Yeah.
And associate the case with it. Now, it depends on how you're set up. Usually you're set up whenever a contact is created, it's going to auto create a family anyway. So there you don't really have to do anything. It's going to auto create an account and it's going to associate that contact with that family.
Yeah. I was just wondering if the client, and obviously I can validate it, but you know, if this contact that's being created, a household already exists for them. And so using some matching criteria to locate that household and then link it to the new contact before that contact's created and creates just a duplicate household. So I might want to manage that too.
Yeah, I think that would be hard to even identify what household this person should belong to if they're not already in the system. I did want to show this link to you that when you don't have to go to the email in order to get to that person's name. You can use that the sender's email address is going to go to a field called web email, and their name's going to go to web name. Those are fields that exist on your contact object or your case object that are probably not on your page layout there, but they're sitting behind the scenes that you should be able to grab that information right off the case.
Awesome. Thank you. I was
that'll save you a little bit.
And then that's super helpful. Thank you guys.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. Just a note regarding my previous comment. I put it in the chat, but if anybody is watching the recording, obviously from a maximum 2,000 elements executed in a flow perspective, we cannot do 10,000 records for Jennifer's use case. We are going to, with the looping, we are going to go over that. So let's say we can process hundreds of records with that setup.
Thanks, Engin.
Welcome. So, and I have a hard stop at 3, Terry. Let's go ahead and take more questions, obviously, but just to let you know.
Yeah. Very good. Anyone else have a question here? Can wrap up the show with it.
Well, one more question. We still
And
have time.
in EDA architecture, you have a junction object relationship that uses reciprocal relationships.
Yes. It's the same in nonprofit relationships and
Oh,
reciprocal relationships. It's a pain in the neck. I know.
Yeah, I'm familiar with those too. And that functionality is kind of what one of the main reasons the client wants to use EDA. So like brother, sister, father, daughter, you create one relationship and then the system handles creating the inverse record.
Right.
Don't know where you're going with that, Konstantin, but yeah, that is a good aspect of the education cloud as they shorten the naming from education data architecture to education cloud. Well, it's still education data architecture, and then it's on the education cloud.
Yeah, we use that in the nonprofit cloud as well. And sometimes I think that kind of like because when we're creating a relationship between two contacts, out of the box, we're able to have something like, 20 or 30 different options for like types of relationships. It's beyond just like family. It can be, like aunt, brother-in-law, like all sorts of reciprocal relationships. And sometimes I wonder if too many options is a bad thing.
When you can control those in the nonprofits settings, there's a reciprocal relationship model in there that allows you to edit or make changes there if you need to.
Yeah, my
And they can
users
also
like it though.
Yeah,
They can
right.
also update based on gender. So
Yes.
that's, another twist.
Yeah, I mean, from a simplification standpoint, I'm all for partner, reciprocal
right.
partner.
Easier, much easier. Yes.
Terry and Andy, when did the scheduled flow, like what releases that? Because I was working recently and I saw that and I was like, wow, this is huge. But like how many releases ago did that come to life, or was it brand new, the scheduled flow?
Scheduled triggered flow, it's been around for a very long time. I can't remember when it came out. Yeah, they've been improving it, but it's probably at least a couple of years, I would imagine.
Oh wow, I just haven't used that one.
Yeah, I think it's quite useful. There are some gotchas, but it's quite useful when you need to get some things done. It's useful for cleanup. We have talked about that. It's useful for I use it for example, how we have record types, and sometimes we tie record types to certain processes or field values, and they fall out of sync. And if you run a daily job on it, you can check if that checkbox is checked. Make sure that that record is on that record type. Things like that. Fix those things.
Yep.
And it's also quite useful when you have to kind of flatten the files to report things. I have clients where some part of the data is in this previous version of this object and some part of the other data is on this other object. And I need to just flag some things and update some things so that I can see them on one report in a clear manner. So I'll do that with scheduled reports too, scheduled triggered flows.
So Andy, we have a question on YouTube that was asked, and this is kind of a classic question that I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to anymore, but the question is related to using one record trigger flow or multiple record trigger flows on an object. Now, with the new release, we have the ability to order well, to set the order in which a record trigger flow runs versus having them all in a single flow for a record trigger flow. Do you have has the addition of the that order field on the flow, has that changed your thoughts on one record trigger flow per object?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't very keen on doing only one record triggered flow all along anyway. So, but you know, with this addition, I think what Salesforce is telling us is they want us to consider using multiple record triggered flows to one object, and they are actively working on the tools to make this easy for us to use. And at the same time, they are actively thinking about all the different potential problems that this could cause, and they are trying to eliminate them. So we see that actually in their presentation. If you haven't watched the Einstein Automate Release Readiness webinar, I think you should. And I can actually show you right here. They have shown, do you see my screen?
It's coming up. Yep.
They have shown this slide, which is very interesting. So on this slide, they are saying, look, we have worked extensively on the overhead and resource consumption of one record triggered flow being launched, and especially in no ops situations, meaning, you know, the flow doesn't really meet the entry criteria. We have it optimized. It's much better than process. So if you're still launching flow, auto launch flow using process, I don't recommend doing that from a performance standpoint. So they've clearly said that's not very good. And they said during that webinar, Diana said, we don't really see a benefit of doing a monster flow and attaching it to a bunch of other subflows or something like that versus multiple record triggered flows.
Yeah, and then in your latest release, there will be a flow trigger explorer that will allow you to visualize your flows much easier. So you would be able to have separate ones as well. So yeah, hopefully that answered your question there online.
Yeah.
And with that, we are like 2 minutes out. So unless somebody has a super quick question, I'm going to let Andy get off to his next meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to drop off, and Terry, please wrap it up for us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks for joining everybody. Tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends, share the recording that is gone live out with your friends on your social media channels. We're going to do this again every second. I keep thinking in my head the second Tuesday every month. It's not the second Tuesday, it's the second Friday of every month at the same time. So if you have questions, feel free to jump back on the calls. We're happy to have you. And if you're a flow expert, please join as well. Feel free to share your thoughts and insights as well. Thanks again to Andy. Thank you for all of you who have asked your questions, and we will see you hopefully next month.